inspiration is a weird thing for me. I never use the word. And I decided against using the word inspiration when I decided that I'm going to be doing this for my life. And that if I was going to depend on some external impetus or some external force to generate the energy to write some poetry, I may never write. And I figured that the idea of inspiration is a curious notion. I mean, I think what I like the word a trigger. I like the word a conversation that I'm having with something. And then I like the word that my poetry is clarifying or helping me to discover what I'm thinking about a subject or about the world and about what is happening around me. And so ignorance, anxiety, joy, the lives of other people and the narratives of other people, and trying to find the language to capture that. That's the drive. That's the thing that moves me. And all kinds of things trigger it. And I try to make sure that it's a wide range of things so that I don't get stuck in a hole. It's enough of a pathology to find the right notebook and the right pen and all of those kind of obsessive things, that to add to that the inspiration for subject matter would be just too much. In writing, it depends on what genre I'm writing in. As you know, I write plays, I write novels, stories, and so on. And of course, I write a ton of poetry. And so, depending on the genre, I think that affects it. I think my routine is built into my personality. I have a personality that likes routine, that sort of creates a pattern of doing things at the same time as much as I can, or getting into a mindset that creates a kind of emotional sense of the exercise that I'm doing. And so I tend to like to have some anchor points, and sometimes it's a practice of reading other people's work and sort of having conversations with it in my poetry. Sometimes it's a practice of looking at art and having a conversation with it in my poetry. But the actual business of writing down poems is pretty straightforward for me. I write a very quick first draft, and I cannot stop. If I stop a first draft halfway through or any way through, I discard it. So there's this weird drive to find out what the poem is about, and then when I finish the thing, I realize, okay, so this is what the poem is about. And then that first draft I will come back to it immediately, or I come back to it a year later, or I'll keep coming back to it. But that first draft is usually pretty quick and pretty intense. Consequently, in my life today, I have a lot of first drafts that I'm still to get back to, but I know what the poems are about by the time I get through the first draft. And if I never finish the first draft, then it means I don't know what the poem is about, and there's no poem. I think we are all sort of constructed around, if you're writers, we're constructed around the work that we read at different points in our lives, especially at the earliest stages of our lives. And like, and I think we come back to that work to remember the pleasure of making, of being moved by this art, by what we read. Because I think it's that pleasure that we receive that sort of does this weird mutation into a desire to recreate it for other people and for ourselves again. That I think is part of this business of writing. So I think I do come back to poets from the Caribbean, especially, who gave me permission to be a writer, whether it's Lorna Goodison or Derek Walcott or Kamal Brathwaite. Unfortunately, these are poets who are substantial enough to sustain constant scrutiny and re-scrutiny and rediscovery and so on. And yet they're classic poets who I know were, writers who shaped me in many ways. So, it might be, Shakespeare, which, people, it's annoying to say I go back to Shakespeare all the time. It's annoying to me anyway. It'd be annoying. I mean, I know some stocky people say, well, I always go back to Shakespeare. But but Shakespeare I always want to quarrel with Shakespeare. I always want to to see how he made his poetry work in the dramas. And they give me that sensation of wanting to first understand how they do it, and then for me to sort of find my way through it.